One of the most dangerous hitters, and people forget, long before he was a designated hitter, Harold was a really good right fielder and had a good arm, could throw you out at third base or home plate. He was just an all-around player. I enjoyed it playing with him, and despised it playing against him because you knew what was coming, especially late in the game. This guy there was just no more dangerous hitter in the league. Both in Detroit and Toronto, where I ended up going when I left Chicago, various pitchers would ask me, okay, so how do we get Harold Baines out? And I said, well, a couple of things. If it were me pitching, I would walk him. And they said, well, that's not getting him out. I said, well, you walk him and then you get the next guy to ground out and force him at second because you're a lot safer that way. In addition to the pitchers asking me, how do you get Harold Baines out? And I said, well, walk him and force him out at second. I also had conversations with the managers, Sparky Anderson in Detroit and Cito Gaston in Toronto, where they asked the same question. How do you get Harold Baines out? I gave him the same standard answer, but I went a little further and said, listen, if late in the game, you do not allow this guy he will beat you. He will beat you. And that was challenged and I remember being out in center field, especially with Detroit, and we chose to pitch to Harold, and I put my head down in center field, shook my head, and I was like, this game is over. And sure enough, it was over a little while later. And walking off the field, Sparky turns to me and says, guess you were right about that. He did not have any holes. If you tried to pitch him up, and oh Lord help you if you knocked him down, and then you thought you could throw a ball on the outside part of the plate, and he'd shoot a line drive off the left center field wall. It was a privilege to know that you were in the presence of greatness. He was an all-around player. We would go in to break up double plays, just as hard as anyone. It was really, the knee injuries, and people didn't understand. And unless you played with him and you were in that clubhouse, he and Herm Snyder and Harold will tell you that there was a lot of maintenance on his knees to get him to be able to go out and play, and there were often times where he'd come back and you'd see it, and I'd say, or others would say, you're hurting today, and it was bone on bone, so for him even the DH role was a little bit challenging physically for him.